So, good afternoon everyone, or good evening, or good morning, depending on where you are in the world today. Welcome and thank you for joining Promethean's webinar. My name is Keely Holliday and I'm going to be your host for today's session. Janice Pranstetter, who is the Promethean Teaching and Learning Consultant for the United Kingdom and Ireland, will be your presenter. So today we're going to show you how to create, present and deliver interactive lessons using ClassFlow Desktop. So I think we're ready to start, and I'm going to hand you over to Janice, who will introduce more about the session. Over to you, Janice.
Hi, Keely. Thanks very much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, and let's get started with the webinar then. Just to warn you, I no longer have my chat window open. If I have my windows open, it takes up space, it makes a grey box on my desktop and what you see. So we are going to be using that chat facility. Make sure that if you're happy to share with everybody, you select all participants. If not, make sure you select all panelists, and then that means that Keely and also another colleague, Rachel, are able to see any questions that come in as private ones to the panelists as well. Okay, so let's get started. So as Keely mentioned at the beginning, I'm going to be speaking about I'm going to be speaking specifically about ClassFlow Desktop today. Now, I did notice when people were sending in the chat of where they are that we have had a few people who have come in that said they're new to ClassFlow itself. So I'm just going to take a minute to talk a little bit about that, to address that and direct you to where you can go after this session to get the basics about what the ClassFlow website enables you to do. So ClassFlow is our next generation software. ClassFlow itself is cloud-based. That means that it's a URL that you would go to register for your account. In the UK, you would go to classflow.co.uk. You notice I have my website open on the screen here. So for those of you who aren't in the UK, you can also select your language from the drop-down here, and that will take you to the correct site as well. If you don't already have a ClassFlow account, it is free to register for ClassFlow and to use ClassFlow. So everything that we talk about in our webinar sessions, anybody who has a ClassFlow account on our site can do all of these things free of charge. So if you do want to register for it, you just need to create an account here, and you would just fill in the information. So if we go create account for a minute, you would just want to sign up as a teacher and complete the information. The alternative is I can also select login here, and this time I'm going to select login as a teacher. And when I do this, if I scroll down, we also support online authentication through Google, Microsoft 365, and Facebook. So if you have one of these accounts that you would rather use to authenticate your ClassFlow account, you have the ability to be able to do that as well. I'm just going to log into my account today. Okay. So as Keely mentioned, just before I start on about ClassFlow Desktop, one last thing is we did run a Getting Started with ClassFlow itself a few weeks ago, and Keely's going to put the name of that webinar into the chat for you, and she's also going to put the name of our YouTube channel, which is just Promethean UKI. So after the session, if you do want to go to find out the basics of the actual ClassFlow website, then I do recommend you get started with that. But also keep your eye out, because we're going to be running more and more of these webinars. We already have several more of them that we're going to be doing this year on various topics for various abilities of user abilities within the site. And we are going to have a wider range of webinar offerings next year as well. Okay? So ClassFlow and ClassFlow Desktop go hand in hand. So both of them we would recommend for your use. So for example, to download and activate the ClassFlow Desktop software that we're talking about tonight, you have to have a ClassFlow account in order to do that. If somebody else installs the software for you at school, you still need to have a ClassFlow account so that you can log into your ClassFlow Desktop account as well. Okay? So I've talked to you about how you can create your account. We would always recommend that you use the online browser version of the software because it gives you the most functionality whenever possible. But we are realistic. Not every teacher is ready to make that jump to relying on a piece of software that is accessed via a website. Also, one question that has popped up time and again when we speak about our cloud-based software is, can I still deliver my lessons if my internet connection is down? Understandably, teachers want some assurance that when their connection fails, they still have a lesson to deliver. ClassFlow Desktop gives you the ability to create and deliver ClassFlow lessons and activities offline and online. This is extremely exciting as it allows those who have limited to no internet access or those who would prefer the reliability of computer-installed software like ActiveInspire are still able to enjoy the benefits of the interactive, engaging features that ClassFlow has to offer. Today I'm going to walk you through some of the features of ClassFlow Desktop and share ideas on how you can use it to embrace the learning experience. So first thing first, where can you get it? ClassFlow Desktop is a piece of software that you need to download and install on your computer. So to get it, you need to have an account with one of our ClassFlow sites. So in the UK, that's classflow.co.uk. You need to be logged into your account, and when you are, you'll come to the home screen. And you can see here that we have a little button here for Get ClassFlow Desktop. When I click on that, it then takes me into more information about ClassFlow Desktop. You can see here. Okay, so it tells what the minimum system requirements are. We do have some help and support that you can go to here. If you are a Windows user, you can download your software right from here, and we do offer 32-bit and 64-bit as well. Or if you're a Mac user, then you can click on here and access the Mac software from there as well. Okay, so ClassFlow Desktop works on Windows and Mac operating systems. Now, when you download and install ClassFlow Desktop onto your computer, anybody can do that from the site. So once you have your account, anybody could do that. But it does work on a 90-day activation system. So what that means is sometime within a 90-day period, you need to hook your computer up that has ClassFlow Desktop on it to one of our interactive displays. So that could be anywhere from our first generation active boards right up to our latest V5 panels. Log into your ClassFlow account, and that will activate it to give you another 90 days. Okay, so it needs to be activated every 90 days. So let's have a look at ClassFlow Desktop then. Once installed, and I did have ClassFlow Desktop open, but it seems to have disappeared from there, so let's click on it. Once it's installed, you can see I've got a little shortcut for it on my desktop here. So I'm just going to click on that to launch it. And once I launch it, you'll see it's just going to open it up for me here. And when it's fully opened, it's going to put this little wheel on my screen. I can move this around, so it doesn't have to stay here. I can move that around to a preferred location on my screen just by picking it up on the black area. So I want to pick it up on the area around here, the dark area, and move that to where I want it to go on my screen. Okay? It does move more smoothly. You can see it's kind of moving a little box, and then it drops onto it. That's only because I'm on WebEx sharing my screen. It moves much more smoothly when I'm not sharing my screen across WebEx. When you click on the middle of the wheel, where I have the 3 lines, my menu will appear. Okay, so you get your ClassFlow Desktop menu. You will notice that some of the icons are grayed out. These ones are grayed out down here, and some of them are available. The reason for this is that I am currently using ClassFlow Desktop offline, in an offline state. So I can tell that because the little band around my wheel here is gray. So when that's gray, that means that I'm using it offline. I'm not connected to my online account at all. And what that means is that it limits some of the functionality. So all of these ones that are grayed out are not available for me to use when I'm in the offline state. We are going to log into my accounts later on, so you'll see and talk about these ones down here as well. One of my favorite features in the software is the Instant Whiteboard. And Instant Whiteboard is available whether you are on or offline. And it's a great way to get started with ClassFlow Desktop with no preparation. To open my Instant Whiteboard, I just want to click on this little symbol here on my wheel, and that is going to open up my Instant Whiteboard for me, as you can see here. This feature is perfect for those times when you are ready to just get started with a class and you haven't got a whole lesson prepared. So for example, maybe I just want to write some instructions up on my class of the tasks I want them to do today. Or we might be doing a brainstorming session where we're looking at a new topic and I want to just have that nice white space to get some ideas down on it. And you can see here that it's a nice full screen, no wasted space, because I can write lots of things on that full white area that I have there. So today I'm going to introduce a new topic to my class, and I'm going to use the pen tool from the menu at the bottom. Now, the lesson I am doing with my class is actually on optical illusions, but because I'm writing with my mouse, I decided I'm going to simplify that, and we are doing an art lesson today, exploring the art of optical illusions. Okay, so you can see, I can just pick up my pen there, and I could write that onto that whiteboard space. If I go back to my pen though, and I've got this little arrow at the top, so whenever you see this arrow here, that means that there's more options for that particular tool. So I'm going to click on that, and you can see I've got a whole array of colors that are available to me for my pen tool. So I don't just have to stick with that blue, I can use any of these colors. I also have the ability to change the line thickness of my writing, the drawing style of the lines that I make, and also the types of pens I have. So I've got two different pen types. I have a highlighter, and I also have a shape recognition tool down here as well. Okay, so what I could do is maybe select red, and I'm going to choose my line, change the thickness a little bit, and I'm just going to underline my title there, so you can see it's drawn a nice straight horizontal line for me. Also in ClassFlow Desktop, you can see I've got this wonderful tool down at the bottom. And what it lets me do is, if I click on this little one here, and you can see when I hover over top of any of the tools in my toolbar, I get a tooltip here to tell me what it is. So this one says Toggle Carousel. So if I click on that, it then opens up the space down at the bottom, and you can see my first card right there. So I can add other cards into my Instant Whiteboard session. So instead of having to delete what's on one to move on to the next, I'm starting to build up a picture of the conversation that I'm having with my class down here at the bottom. And I can just toggle that carousel to hide it again. I can add shapes on. So once again, we're looking at optical illusions. So I'm going to choose some shapes. We're going to look at 3 different types of optical illusions today. So we're going to look at literal, psychological, and put a circle there, literal, psychological, and cognitive. So I might decide, okay, we're going to have a discussion about what they think those things mean. So let's put some shapes there on there. Now I can select all of these shapes at the same time, and I'm just going to change the size of them. Again, this is much easier to do when I'm on my panel than trying to do it here with my mouse at my computer. So I can make my shapes there. Now I want to color my shapes as well. So if I select a shape and then go back to my toolbar, I have one down here called Component Properties. And if I click on that, you can see here it opens up my array of colors again. And I could say, okay, I'm going to make this one orange. I want to change the opacity of it a little bit. It's a bit too dark for me. There we go. I could change the outlines, the various other things, properties I can change of that shape. So I could choose my next one. Let's do this one in blue. Again, make that a bit lighter. And this one we're going to do in green. So I'll do that green there. Okay, so now I've got my shapes on there. I can also add text by opening a text box and typing it in. So I can put optical illusions on there. What I also can do, though, is I can handwrite and then change my handwriting into text. So I'm going to choose a different color than red. I'm going to choose my black pen there. And this time I'm just going to, oh, you can see, I have to change my line type as well, my drawing style. And I'm just going to write on here, literal. Bear with me, because again, not easy writing with my mouse. Okay, so I'll write literal on there. I have text recognition, so if I grab that, I can then drag a box around that text and it will recognize it, convert it for me, and then I can pick that up and move that around where I want it to go on my page. Okay, so I could do that for all of my areas, all of my different types of optical illusions that we're going to speak about. Now, not related to optical illusions, but something else that I do want to show is we also have an equation recognition tool. So if I were to write an equation on here, so let's just do a nice simple one, just to show you what it looks like, and go back here, I'm going to select my equation editor this time, and now I can draw a box around that, and you can see it converts that into a nice equation for me. So that's really easy to use and a fantastic feature. Okay, so once I'm finished with my Instant Whiteboard lesson, I have the options down here where I can save this as a lesson. So I want to make use of discussion. Maybe we've run out of time, so I don't want to just delete it. I want to keep this so that I can open it up in the next lesson and we can continue from where we left off. I can do that by saving it as a lesson. So I just click Save, and then you can see it takes me into the browser in my computer, and I can decide where I want to save that file. So again, one of the great things with ClassFlow Desktop is that I don't have to save my content into the cloud. I can save my lessons or my activities as files onto my local computer, or I could save it into a network drive or any other cloud storage that I use. So I'm not limited to saving it in a ClassFlow area. Okay, I'm not actually going to save that, so I'm just going to cancel that one for now. The other thing that I can do, if I wanted to, is just exit Whiteboard. But if I do exit Whiteboard, it means that none of my work will be saved, and the next time I open up the whiteboard, it will open up as a brand new blank Instant Whiteboard session. Okay, so again, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to leave it as it is. So what if I wanted to go back to my desktop, but still continue working on my Instant Whiteboard session? Well, I can do that by just going back to my wheel and opening up that menu. And all I need to do is click the Instant Whiteboard icon a second time, and it toggles off. So you can see I'm back to my desktop. If I click it again, the Instant Whiteboard opens up again for me. And if we just toggle the carousel down here, you'll notice it's put another blank page in there, ready for me to start on the next pieces of information I want to put on there for my students. I also have the ability to delete. So if I don't want that there, I could delete that off, and it takes it out, and you'll see I just have those two remaining ones there as well. So I can add cards, but I can also take them away. Let's go back to my desktop for a minute, okay? One of the great things about ClassFlow and ClassFlow Desktop is how the software integrates with all the wonderful resources that you already have at your fingertips. Why reinvent the wheel if the wheel still works? So I can use ClassFlow Desktop over any program that runs on my PC. So that could be PDF, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, web browsers, you name it. I'm going to show you how to do this, and I'm just going to use a PowerPoint for this one. Okay, so I've opened up my PowerPoint. I'm just going to move my wheel for a second, collapse it and move my wheel, and I'm going to go into slideshow mode by clicking there. So when I'm in my PowerPoint, I can then scroll through it like I normally would on my screen. So obviously on my display, I'm clicking with my mouse, but obviously on my display, I would just be touching my page and working my way through the lesson. But when I come to a slide that I'd like to annotate over, then I can go to my ClassLo Desktop wheel, and I can choose my desktop Annotate. So I'm going to choose that one there. Okay. So Desktop Annotate then opens, and you can see here I've got those Instant Whiteboard tools, those tools that we saw, toolbar that we saw in Instant Whiteboard down here at the bottom. But this time, it's showing my PowerPoint presentation behind it. So what happens is when I do this, it now adds a picture of that PowerPoint page into my Instant Whiteboard session. So you can see it down there at the bottom. Okay, so I'm just going to toggle back out of it for a second. And now I can annotate over top of this. So if I wanted to, I could go in, I could select my highlighter, go back to a bit thinner line, and I could highlight key pieces of information on here, okay? You could say we're going to be looking at Titchener circles today, and our first optical illusion, we can see here that we've got some circles on here. And with this optical illusion, your eye is tricked into believing that the two center circles are different sizes, okay? So we can see there, we can have that discussion with our class. Now what's great with having my tools here is that I could, for example, go to my shapes and I could pick the little circle one here, and I'm going to grab that and bring it on, and I'm just going to change the size of that so I could fit that right on my little circle in the center there, okay? And I could say, so there we go, that's the size of that circle. So do you think it's the same as this one? Well, let's have a look. I could drag that over, we could drop it there and say, look, it is actually the same, even though your eyes don't believe it, we can tell that it is. Or I can duplicate that and we could drag another circle over to show that they are actually the same. Okay, so it means that I can interact in various ways using the tools that I have down here in my desktop Annotate. If I want to toggle back into my PowerPoint presentation, I'm ready to move on. I can do that just by going back here and toggling. Okay, so I'm going to do that. We'll toggle that off. I'm back into my PowerPoint presentation, and now I can click on it to move on to my next optical illusion. So you saw I use shapes. If I want to do that desktop Annotate again, I just click on it, toggle it so it opens up my tools. And this time, I'm maybe going to go into my toolbox here. So ClassFlow Desktop has some great tools that you can use on your lessons as well. So in this case, I'm going to pick up the ruler here. I would want to see on this Euler-Lyre illusion, are the two center lines the same length? This one definitely looks longer to me, but we could check that out. So I've got my ruler here. I can expand that to however much I want. I can rotate it, and then I could place that right there on the line. So we could see there what the line is. If I wanted to, I could even use my pen tool and I could draw the line on there, and then we could take it over to this side and say, hey, look at that. They are actually the same length. Might not look it, but that's the optical illusion, tricking your eyes. Okay? Just going to close that tool down. If I go back here to toggle Carousel, you'll see it's added those cards on there, and any annotations that I did are also added on there as well. So now if I were to go to save that, all of that valuable discussion we had would be saved on there as well. And once again, I can just toggle out of that by clicking on my desktop Annotate again. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to end my slideshow. Okay, and I'm going to close my PowerPoint presentation down. So, load so far, and I've still got a little bit to do. But remember, this session is being recorded, and we will make the recording available to you after, so you can go back and watch any parts of this again. So I'm going to power on a little bit more, and I can see that some questions have been coming into the chat, and my fantastic helpers today have been answering the questions for me. I will take a few at the end, but I think we'll just get through the material tonight and see where we get from there. So let's have a look at what else we can do in ClassFlow Desktop. I can also create ClassLo lessons and activities in ClassFlow Desktop. If I go back to the wheel and expand it, I can then go to this little folder here, which is my browse icon. When I click on it, it opens up my menu. I can create a new ClassFlow lesson or a new ClassFlow activity using the builders. I could browse my computer to find a ClassFlow lesson or activity I already have created and saved on my computer. Or I can convert files into ClassFlow lessons to help me get started. So right now, ClassFlow Desktop, you can convert flipcharts, Smart Notebook, and PDF files into ClassFlow lessons. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to go into Builder, and I'm going to use a lesson that I've already created, and I'm going to edit this one. Okay, so I can just click on that, and then what it's going to do is it's going to launch ClassFlow Builder for me. As I said, I'm using a lesson that I've already partly created, so I do have some cards on there with some information. And what I want to do is I'm just going to talk through some of the tools that you get in Builder to show you how I can add on to this lesson. Okay, so you can see here, here's my lesson, and it's made up of a series of cards here. Okay, I have my tools at the top. My Builder tools are all up here at the top. If I hover over top of them, they tell me what they are as well. Okay, so this is great when I'm on the computer when I have that hover effect. If you're not on a computer, if you're doing this on one of our panels where it's touch enabled, you won't get that hover effect. But that's okay, because if we go over to the little gear over here, options, I can show the icon text, the icons and their text as well. So once you're learning it, that's a nice feature to have open, so you can remember what all of those tools do. And I could go back and I could toggle that down again to just show the icons. Now, a couple of things I'm going to do with this lesson. First one is I want to go to my page 3 here. And you can see that I've got quite a lot of information on this page. And what I want to do is make it a little bit easier for my class to read. So I am going to hide some of that information. So just like in Active Inspire, there's some great tools, power tools that enable me to do things like that. Come out of that text box. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to go to my tools here, and I'm going to go to my revealer. So some of you Active Inspire users might recognize this revealer, and I can pull that down to where I want it to hide the information when I play or deliver my lesson to my class. Okay, now remember I'm doing all of this offline, so I still have that gray border around my wheel, and I'm still doing all of this offline so far. I'm going to choose my next page. You can see I've put some text on there using the text option. I could annotate if I want to, or add shape. In this case, what I want to do is I want to add another optical illusion, and I have that saved on my computer. So if I go up here to the little insert file, I can then navigate into my hard drive to find my optical illusion images folder and find the one that I want. And then I can open that up and put that onto my page. And I can resize that if I want to. And you can see that objects on the page also have this little gear next to them. If I click on that, you'll recognize some of the options that you could do with objects in Active Inspire are available to me in ClassLo as well. Okay, so there's more things that I can do with particular objects on the page. I can add a new card into the lesson. So I'm just going to add my card in here. And this time, I'm going to insert a ClassFlow activity that I already created into my lesson. I'm just going to go back up to my little insert one here. Okay, and back up to find my activity there, optical illusions, and I'm now going to put that onto my card as well. Okay, so you can see I've now started to build up a nice lesson that I'm going to play with my class. So once finished this lesson, what I would want to do is click Save here. Now, I've already saved this lesson, so when I click Save, it just saves my changes that I've made to that file already on my computer. And you can see there I had that little tick to tell me that my save was successful. If I haven't saved this before, clicking that Save would bring up my computer browser window, and then I could navigate to where I want that file saved on my computer. And ClassFlow lessons save as .cfl files on my computer. Now, if I wanted to use the lesson with my class, I can do that here, still offline. And to do that, I would just click on play, and this then plays my lesson. So you can see here, I'm partway down, I can go back up to the top of my lesson, my first page. I can hide my carousel out of the way there, and I can use my buttons here to move through that lesson with my class. Okay. I can make my lessons interactive as well. So for example here, this is just drag and drop, have my class look at it, and then what I want to do is I want to reveal the correct answer. So I can drag and drop objects around my page as well. So I can have my students come up and do that also, doesn't always have to be the teacher. Okay, we can continue through. You can see that I've got that reveal tool, so I could pull that down to reveal further information on there. I also have my pen tool available here, so I could say to my class, what can you see when you shake your head back and forth for a few minutes? And I could have my class come up and write what they see on there as well, so we can annotate on top of that. Okay? So to come out of my lesson, I'm just going to exit it. And this just takes me back into Builder. So far, we have been looking at what can be done with ClassFlow offline. I want to take the last little bit of the session to have a look at what else we can do when we are online. So when we connect ClassFlow Desktop to our online ClassFlow accounts. So logging into my ClassFlow account is easy. I just go back to my wheel, expand the menu, and then I want to go to this little gear here. Okay, so you can see here my options, and I want to just log in. Now, just really quickly, one thing I want to point out is that, again, you want to make sure that your ClassFlow desktop software is directed to the correct ClassFlow URL. So in the UK, we're asking people to register at classflow.co.uk, so you want to make sure it says that up there. If it doesn't have the correct website, just click on it, and you can go in and you can change the website from here. And then you just click Save again, okay? So I'm going to just log into my account, and hopefully I've typed it in correctly quickly, and I have. Okay, so now you can see that I've logged into my account. If you notice that now that I've logged in, one thing changes. My wheel now has an orange border around it. So right away it tells me that my ClassFlow software is now connected to my online account. If I expand that wheel to see my menu options, you'll notice I have two more icons that are available to me. Okay, this one takes me to my online ClassFlow account, so I can go directly to my full ClassFlow account right through the ClassFlow desktop software, and this one here enables me to connect students into my lesson. Now I am going to show you how to do this, but before I do, I just really quickly want to show you how I take a lesson that I've created offline in ClassFlow desktop and get that into my online account. So to do that, all I want to do is just, I'm going to click on another, oh, didn't like me clicking on that page, just click on another page there just to refresh the screen. And if you notice, when I did that, I now have a third option available at the top right, one that says Upload. So all I need to do is click that and give it a minute. It then comes up with a message saying successfully added that, and I now have that in my online account. I'm just going to leave that for a second and show you where that is. So if I click on ClassFlow here now, this is going to take me to my online account. And I am a little bit slow because I'm broadcasting, but here we go. So you can now see this is my full ClassFlow account. I'm already logged into it. If I go to my resources, you'll notice here at the top of my resource tree, I have a folder, Optical Illusions, and I have my lesson there. So you can see that lesson that I created in Offline Builder is now in my online account. So if I have that full connectivity in my class, in my classroom, I can deliver my lesson using my online account, making sure that I have use of all of the functionality that ClassFlow has to offer. Okay, to come back out of that, I just want to go back to my menu, and I'm just going to toggle ClassFlow again, and you can see it brings me back into Builder. Okay. So one of the features that I really love about ClassFlow and ClassFlow Desktop is the ability to involve my students in a lesson using polls. To make use of this feature, I first need to connect to one of my classes. So I'm going to do that by going to my wheel again and going to my little people here, and that will then show me the classes that I have. These are classes that I created in my online account. So in order to create a class, you need to do that in your ClassFlow online account. But ClassFlow Desktop will automatically give you this one up here, an ad hoc session. So I'm going to select that one first, okay? And while my class is, while that's connecting to my class, I would have my students then open up their browser on their device and go to classflow.co.uk/student. Okay, so this is the URL where they would go to join the class. We don't have an app that you would install on tablets. You would just get them to open up a browser window and go to that URL. So here, under Join Class, I'm going to type in QQQBW. So you can see here, this is my unique code for this class. This tells my class, this is the class that the code that my class would use to join. I'm just then going to click Join Class here, and I just want to type in my name. Okay, I'm going to minimize that just by clicking there so I can get to this, and I'm going to click Join anyway. And now I have one student who's joined into my class. And I can see that here, in fact, I've got more than one because I have 4 students. So I can see on my wheel, it's telling me here how many students are connected, and I can see as more people are joining, that's counting up. I can also see here from my code that stays on my screen, if I do that little arrow, I can also have a look here at my students that have joined, and I recognize lots of names there, which is nice. And what I can also do is this little one here moves it right to left, or if that's still getting in the way, I can just pick that up and move that to wherever I want to have it on my screen. So I'm just going to leave it there for a second. Now, once my class is connected, the other thing that you might have noticed that's changed is I now have 2 other icons available to me. Okay, so I've got this one here, which is my polling, and this one here allows me to send a snapshot of anything on my desktop to my student devices. One other thing you might notice is that I no longer have the ability to go to my online account, and that's because obviously I can't be connected in both accounts. So I'm either connected to my students connected offline, through ClassFlow Desktop, or I have them connected through my online account. You'll also notice that the ring around the wheel has changed again, and this time it's green. So this tells me that I have a class session started and I have students connected. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to get my class involved. So I could go to my polling here, and I might just want to check and see how everybody's doing tonight. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to send a yes or no question to my class. If I toggle my student view, you'll see it here. I just have yes, no, don't know. I'm going to click yes, because I'm confident about what I've been showing tonight, and I'm going to click submit, okay, and that sends it in. You can see here that it's counting up the submissions that my students have made, so I can start to see there I've got 6 out of 13 people that have submitted, and once that's done, it will stop for me. But in the meantime, I can click this button here, and this will open up my results viewer. So I can see my students' responses coming in down here. Right now, I have it in anonymous mode. So all I see is student 1 to 8. I don't know exactly who said what. But if I wanted to, I could toggle this one here, show names, and I could have a look at exactly who gave which particular answer. I also have different ways that I can view that information as well. To come out of my results viewer, I just need to click on this one, and I'm back out of my results viewer, and I can stop that poll just by clicking on the little stop button there. Now I do want to mention that because I've used an ad hoc class, once I stop this lesson, once I close down ClassFlow Desktop, I lose all of that data. So all of those poll results that I did with my class, all of those answers that I collected are lost. But if I had have used one of the created classes, the classes that I created through my online account to connect my students to, then all of those poll results would then save back into my online ClassFlow account. So I would be able to use them for assessment purposes, looking at next steps, etc. Okay, so if you want to save them, then you need to make sure that you're using a pre-created class. Okay, I'm just going to go back into my wheel, and I've stopped that poll actually, so that's fine. I'm just going to exit out of my lesson here, and this time I'm going to exit without saving and come to my desktop. The one last thing that I want to show you is that I don't just have to poll over things that are in ClassFlow Desktop. I can actually poll over any program or anything that I have on my computer desktop. So if I open up that PowerPoint presentation again, this time I'm just going to go to card 7 here, okay? And I'm going to come back to my wheel and I'm going to go back to my poll. What I want to do though is I want to give my students this image that I have on there. So I'm going to select the image and I'm going to choose a region snapshot. And what that will do is it's going to give me a little selector tool so I can draw around the area that I want to send my class. And I'm now going to send that out to you as a creative card. So if I toggle to my student view, you can see here that that card is now on my student view, and the student has some tools up here as well so they can interact with the card. And what I might want to say is when you look at this picture, what do you see? So it might be that they pick up the draw tool and they could annotate on top of the picture, so I could see 2 people here. Okay, we could type in. So what do I see? I see man. Okay, so I could type that in. Man. I can't see what I'm doing there. There we go. I could move that onto my page. There we go. And once I've got that, I could then submit that in. Okay. So again, once I've submitted that, I could then, as a teacher, view the results for my class. Then, and this, a different type of polling, you can see here. I can see all my wonderful student answers coming in down at the bottom here, and I can click through them to have a look. Again, names are hidden, but if I wanted to, I could show the names as well. Okay, I'm just going to stop that poll again, and I'm going to toggle out of here. So I'm going to close that down, and I'm going to toggle out of my viewer. Okay. So that pretty much brings us to the end of our ClassFlow Desktop session. Lots of information in there, but what I will do is Keely's going to give you some ideas of where you can go for some help and support and professional development after the webinar. And also we will be following up this session with an email that will give you some links to little video tutorials of some of the things that I've shown you in this session as well. But just before I finish and hand over to Keely, and maybe if you've got time, take a couple of questions. What I need to do before I exit my ClassLo desktop is I need to, first of all, come into my wheel, and I want to stop my class session. Okay, so I need to go into my class session, and I'm going to end my session. And the second thing I just want to do is I want to log out of my account. So I'm going to do that, log out, and you can see now I'm back into my ClassFlow Desktop offline state. One last quick thing, right now I could pick that up and move that around, as I said, just hide it off there in the corner, but if that's still getting in my way, I can also just keep it open, but toggle it here on my system tray so that it's hidden, or I can bring that circle up right away when I want to use it. Okay, so Keely, I'm going to pass it back over to you to finish off, and if there's any quick questions, I'm happy to answer those as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Janice. Yes, we've got a few questions if you've got time to answer them. One of them from earlier on, a great question. What will be the ClassFlow Desktop activation requirements for anybody who doesn't have an interactive whiteboard or Promethean product?
So there's discussions that are going around that right now. What we would say to you is that really that's what the online account is for. So anybody can use the online account, and it's not dependent on having Promethean hardware at all to use that. Basically, what I would say is any questions around that, I would send it on to our ClassFlow support team. So if you go to support@classflow.com and send all of those wonderful questions there. But as I say, there's lots of discussions going around it because the ClassFlow Desktop, as the addition to our ClassFlow family, is still quite new. Keely, any other ones?
Okay, thank you, Janice. Yes, just one more. Somebody's asked, can you import existing lessons from ClassFlow to ClassFlow Desktop if you're using ClassFlow Desktop offline?
Yes, you can. So if you have your online account and you've got lessons in your online account, you are now able to download them from your online account, save them onto your computer, and open up in ClassFlow Desktop. So you can do that. If I come back out, so I was just getting your pages there ready, Keely, but if I come back out and I can show that, if I select my lesson here, I have the option to download that lesson, and this will download it onto my computer.
Wonderful. Okay. That's all the questions. Thanks, Janice. Everything else has been answered already.
Okay, perfect. Right, I'm just going to let you finish off then.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that, Janice. I think that was a very informative and insightful session today, which I'm sure everybody found highly useful. I think some great examples shown of how ClassFlow Desktop gives us the ability to create and deliver interactive ClassFlow lessons both off and online. I'm sure there'll be lots of people eager to get started with what they've learned today. Wonderful session. So, as Janice has got the screen up, as you can see, if you do want to learn more as you go along or some help in getting started, then we do offer free professional development courses through our Learn tenant. So here you'll find a module on ClassFlow Desktop and will help with the next steps from today's session. So all you need to do is go to learn.classflow.co.uk and register as a student. The full instructions are on the screen, and we'll provide the link in our follow-up email so that you don't miss any of the details on how you can access that free professional development. Okay, so what's happening next? Well, Promethean are hosting a series of webinars over the next few months. Please remember to spread the word with everybody. We would love to see you on our next webinar, where our guest presenter, Alison Liddon, who's a Promethean advocate and a primary school teacher, will be talking about her ClassLo journey. Details for the webinar can be found on ResourceEd and Promethean World websites. The web addresses are on your screen, and again, we'll send details in our follow-up email to you all. Just a reminder that we are listening, and the Promethean UKI team is actively involved in all social media streams, so don't forget to follow, like and subscribe. So again, big thank you to Janice for today's session and to our wonderful panellists who've been answering the questions on the chat facility. Thank you for joining us, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you all again soon.